Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. I'm your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week. That song you heard up top, that was Jay Flax and the Heart Attacks with our G.I. Joe Joe on Joe theme song. And I'm sitting next to a young man, a man who I am almost twice his age, but he's a friend of mine from work. He sits right behind me, and he always has something fantastic to discuss when it comes to Star Wars. His name is Spencer Miller. Spencer, welcome to Joe on Joe.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate the nice words, and I'm happy to be here. It's going to be great.
I think you're a hoot. You
I am a bit of a hoot,
you
actually.
are a hoot.
Yeah.
You are a
bit of a
hoot.
goofball.
Yeah,
one
you
would
are.
say.
You're a total goofball.
Not a professional one, but I would say.
But you could be, though. The life is long.
I've always revered people like Robin Williams and stuff.
Oh,
so that's probably one of my biggest.
He's the best. Yeah.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. So Spencer works with me alongside me here at GameFly.
Yes, sir.
And you're primarily a college student.
Yeah, so I've taken I'm a little bit of a late bloomer with college. Took a couple years off to figure out what I want to do.
And you're what we like to call a GameFly legacy.
A GameFly legacy.
You started interning here at 16,
and I'm now 24.
16.
So long story short, I got the internship over the summer when I was 16, and I just kept some relationships. So
yeah,
when I was older, came back and
it's great because you actually, I see a lot of people who actually respect the heck out of you.
Really?
Yeah, totally.
I've never noticed that. I don't ever.
Oh, I totally have seen it. I've totally seen it.
Really?
Yeah. There's because as just a long-standing thing, you actually shepherd a lot of the interns here.
Yeah.
Over the summer, like
that's been a great experience. So
and you've
far.
led the charge on a lot of the testing for our new GameFly streaming service.
For sure, of course. Yeah, no, definitely doing some cool stuff in my.
And by the way, as long as we're out there, let's throw a GameFly plug in here. You know what? Listen, if you're video gamers out there and you don't want to waste money,
or
try
time.
GameFly or time. Try GameFly. For super cheap per month, like I think our first plan started like $15.95 per month.
$15.95.
Yeah, you get AAA games delivered to your door.
AAA games, and let's be honest, I feel like most gamers nowadays, like if you're not playing a game in a month, and you're spending a week on it, you're spending $15 versus $60. Like it just.
And what's great about GameFly, it's not great for games like, I would say, in my opinion, games like Fallout, or I'm in the middle of a Skyrim playthrough right now.
I agree.
You're throwing in 60, 80 hours into these games.
Of course.
That's not what GameFly's for. Because those games you're going to buy, you want to sit on them, you want to use them forever. GameFly is for those medium games where you're like, they could be AAA titles, but they're like, I don't know if I'm going to spend
100%.
60 hours, but I want to give it a good 20-hour shot or
100%.
a 10-hour shot. Or if you want to try the latest shooter, but you're not sure you want to invest in all of it, that's what GameFly's perfect for.
I agree. I
always tell my friends when they get new systems. So I have a buddy recently just went from Xbox over to PlayStation.
Oh, wow.
I immediately was like, just get GameFly. Because when you're switching consoles, instead of just dropping, here's $300 for the console and then another $300 just to get 5 games. My God, no. Get GameFly for at least a few months. You try it, and then you catch up on a ton of games. We have a great library.
Yeah. And don't forget, we also have GameFly Streaming now as well.
We do have GameFly Streaming.
GameFly Streaming.
That is,
which you are the voice. You're the voice of GameFly Streaming.
You know what? I think we're not ready to announce that.
We're not ready to
announce that yet. But yeah, we're
special subscriber.
If you see a commercial, it may sound familiar to loyal Joe and Joe listeners. Similar. Yeah. Yeah, GameFly Streaming is available it's definitely available everywhere on Amazon Fire.
Yeah, so you can do it on your LG Smart TVs, your Samsung Smart TVs, your MTech Game Box, your Amazon Stick, and Amazon Fire TV.
Yeah, and it's available around the world, actually, because GameFly Disc is only available in the U.S. GameFly Streaming is available locally on different telecoms, so different cable companies.
Yeah, so that does mean in different areas of the world you'll have different licensing regarding games, so different libraries.
Yeah.
But
and it's cool because the game plays basically in the cloud and you're streaming it directly to your joystick. It's going straight from the TV or from your Roku or what have you right to your controller. You don't need a console. You don't need the $300 investment. You just need the $30 controller. gamepad.
Probably the best choice for a new gamer getting into the world of gaming and trying to find their place.
It's nice.
There's some great titles as well, like the Batman or Arkham games.
Yeah. All the Batman games in there. And if you're curious, if you're wondering about like how good is the streaming quality, we have Batman games on there. Those games are all about timing.
Yeah.
And all about
they work great.
Yeah. Just getting the punches in sequence and everything. They work amazing on it. It's a really cool thing. So there we go. End of commercial for GameFly.
End of commercial.
It's done. But check it out. No more GameFly talk. But Spencer Miller, I want to talk more about you.
Let's do it.
So you're a younger guy. So what were you watching when you were like 10 years old? What are we talking about? What kind of stuff were you into?
10 years old. Right off the bat, Yu-Gi-Oh. I was anything Japanese inspired.
Now, Yu-Gi-Oh, did they have a cartoon?
They did have a cartoon.
They did.
One of the reasons the TCG, the card game, is so indoctrinating is because in the actual anime they use cards. So when you have a show like Dragon Ball Z, which is another one of my favorite shows of all time, I can quote any episode. But in Dragon Ball Z, they're using like powers and all this, very godlike, transcendent kind of stuff that isn't very realistic for us humans. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, you can go out to your local card shop and buy the card that you saw the main character use in the show.
That's awesome, and that's very, very. That ties in really well with G.I. Joe because that's essentially, now they weren't using toys on the show, but they would trot out a new vehicle, and you could go get that vehicle, and they would on the show they would use it true to what the toy is, and that would
of course
really tie in with your play style. So that's great.
I think also wasn't one of my biggest favorites, but I definitely in regard to the whole toy stuff coming out and making you feel like you're in the show, Power Rangers was definitely probably my most relatable.
I'm on record
show.
saying I hated Power Rangers.
It's the worst show
terrible,
ever.
Right?
Terrible.
It's terrible.
Terrible quality.
However, I will admit this: the trailer looks kind of fun.
It does look fun, and we have I'm blanking on her
Bryan
name. Bryan Cranston. And we have Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah, Elizabeth Banks.
Who
I'm a big fan of.
Beautiful.
She's delightful. Well, she's super talented.
Very talented.
She's just good. Like, she's
Very
really fun
talented.
to watch and gorgeous.
Has come so far since the 40-Year-Old Virgin days.
Well, she's 40. What was she in 40-Year-Old Virgin?
She was Beth.
Who's Beth?
So Seth Rogen and Steve Carell, their characters, are going into the Barnes & Nobles to pick up girls.
Was she the girl that got picked up?
She's the picked up girl.
Oh, okay. Well, I first noticed her as Betty Brant in Spider-Man.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She was J. Jonah Jameson's assistant, and she was great in it. Do you know she's the #1 grossing female director? Because she directed Pitch Perfect.
She did.
Yeah.
Personal, quick plug, really quick for my parents. CKDLA. She directed a PSA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So let's get into that a little bit. Your parents are in the your parents are in the business and production.
Sure. Yeah.
I know they did a TV show last year. So explain to me what your status is.
So long story short, they both had careers at CAA for 20 years, and after certain events and changes of viewpoints, they decided to start their own business.
So they were agents?
They were agents. My mom was an executive, and my stepdad was an agent in the television division.
Who did they rep? Anyone awesome?
My stepdad was packaging deals. I think he was representing more TV writers and people like that versus actual talent. But my mom had people like Bill Murray, Ellen DeGeneres.
That's amazing.
They were huge back in the day.
Amazing.
They're still huge now. But
and didn't you tell me once your mom was an assistant to someone
Michael Ovitz?
Massive? Oh yeah, Michael Ovitz.
Huge,
yeah.
She was. I actually grew up around a lot of Michael Ovitz's kids and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
In my first 8 years of life.
Awesome.
Yeah. So really, really interesting story. Really cool stuff. My mom definitely got some cool insights into her life. But what they do now is they have a cause marketing company, which is essentially
market Bill Cosby.
No, that I'm sure they're staying away from that one for now. But they'll basically take some of their knowledge of the entertainment business or some connection that they've had for a while, and they'll bridge the gap between a big nonprofit organization
awesome.
and so
They'll put stars together with nonprofits to help raise money for the nonprofit.
Well said.
What is they have a website? Is that
CKDLA
CKDLA.com. So check that out. That's pretty cool.
Check it out.
Give it free plug.
Free plug. Thank you.
Free plug. Nonprofit plug.
You can check out their PSAs, their backstories.
Oh, that's cool. So they did one with Elizabeth Banks.
They did. She's in and directed it.
Okay.
So
cool. And they had a show last year called like Heartbeats or Heartbeat.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't go past the first season.
Yeah. That happens a lot these days, though.
It was their first actual major production on their production side. So I don't think it was seen as a loss versus a learning experience.
Totally.
So, but they've got some cool stuff coming in the future.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. You've got some cool stuff, too, because today's episode of G.I. Joe is called The Invaders.
Oh, my God.
Now, here's why I was very excited to have you on this episode specifically, my friend. You are a massive Star Wars fan.
Massive Star Wars fan.
You know,
I love Star Wars.
Yeah, you still lament to me to this day every once in a while when the subject comes up, which Star Wars comes up all the time.
All the time.
But when the subject of the extended universe comes by, you are so knowledgeable in the extended universe, and you're so upset that they launched the extended universe.
Yeah, well, that's a whole conversation.
Yeah.
So
Well, today's episode of The Invaders involves a UFO.
Which I'm also a huge fan of.
Right, and space aliens and things like that. So it's definitely got a space slant. So I'm happy to have you here.
No, that's probably the best way to get me into this show.
What was your experience with G.I. Joe when you were coming up? Were you ever exposed? Have you ever seen any of these older episodes or?
Sure, I don't think I've seen any of the older episodes. I think I definitely saw some of the animated stuff around 2000, early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah, there were a couple like Renegades and like Valor versus Venom, things like that. Yeah,
definitely had some toys. But my cousin, who was the same age as me, was huge into G.I. Joe. Yeah. He was into I remember G.I. Joe for me being very kind of like high tech ninjas.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they got into that heavy in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like Ninja Force, and there were all kinds of ninja action going on.
So that's my experience.
Okay.
For sure.
What so you were into? So we talked about you were into like trading card stuff. You and stuff. Were you into? Did you have action figures, or were it just like Star Wars action figures, or what was your action figure scene
had
like?
A lot of Legos, a lot of Star Wars Legos.
Awesome.
I was a big Lego person. I had I think action figure wise, Power Rangers probably outcrept everything else. I had so many Megazords and stuff like that.
So they did Power Ranger figures of the characters or the line, because they had animals or something they wrote in.
They had Megazords. So they would have kind of these vehicles that they would each individually get in, and then the vehicles would merge together
like Voltron.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ambiguous, where they get their power from or how it all works, but we just know that it does.
So the action figures were the Zords, or they were the people?
So the Zords were much more appealing because they
did sell the people. Though.
They did sell the people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. You wouldn't always be able to fit like the actual figures in the Zords.
Yeah.
The Zords were fun because you had, a minor ability to manipulate the Zord and like build one up and then have all the separate pieces.
Awesome.
More for
That's
you had
cool.
to use your imagination.
It's kind of Transformery.
Very Transformery.
Yeah, kind of Transformery, a little more than Joey. Well, I love today's episode. It's got the introduction of the October Guard. The October Guard.
I know nothing.
Not a lot of people do, but strangely enough, they've been around since like issue 6 or 7
of the original
of the comic book
of the original issues.
Yeah, which is like 1983.
Wow.
They're called the Russian counterpart to G.I. Joe, but it's kind of not true because
so they're good guys.
Well, they're good guys in the eyes of Russia. Remember, this is during the Cold War.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we're not
they're
buddy with them.
Yeah, they're good. They're good guys in the eyes of Russia. They are good guys. They're not like Cobra bad.
Sure.
But their goals are against usually what G.I. Joe wants, because G.I. Joe was a real American hero.
Yeah.
Later, and for the live action movie and all that stuff, they kind of G.I. Joe became more of an international force. Updated. But back then,
with a little more Channing Tatum,
a lot more Channing Tatum. A lot less shirts, a lot more Channing.
A lot more Channing.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
So this this takes place during the height of Reagan era Cold War stuff. So Russians are the bad guy. But this like kind of counter G.I. Joe squad, they only had about 5 people on this episode, and in the comics maybe it went up to like 6 or 8 or so. So they weren't as vast as G.I. Joe, but they were characters, and you're gonna love them.
Awesome.
Like in the comics, every time they showed up, it was fantastic. So be ready for that.
Perfect.
And be ready for Space Aliens.
I love it.
Okay.
It sounds amazing.
It's so great. All right, Spencer Miller, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Real quick, we can find you on social media. If you guys want to reach out and say hi to Spencer.
Sure.
See exactly
Why
what
not? Say hi.
Yeah, say hi to my boy Spencer.
I'm telling you right now, there's nothing special, nothing interesting.
No, there's a lot.
But if you want to say hi,
special. No, you're a hoot, dude. You're a hoot.
If you want to say hi,
go ahead. You find Spencer on Instagram.
Thank you.
At Spensington, and we had a discussion about the spelling of this.
Yeah, it doesn't really make
it is Spence,
sense,
SPENCEINGTON. And my stance is you need to drop the E in the middle. It should be Spence Inkton, but it's not. It's
not.
Spence
It's Spensington with an E.
Inkton.
It's very unique.
It is
edgy.
It is, and I'm
not an edgelord.
So find you on Instagram at Spensington, and if you're out there, you want to find me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at JoeOnJoePod. You can send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com and send me a note if you want to be a guest on the show. We've had some remote callers be on the show.
That's awesome. I don't think many people do that.
No, I don't. Not a lot of pods do, and I love doing it because I'm meeting Joe fans from across the country.
That's awesome.
A couple weeks ago, I had someone reach out. We're going to try to get him on again very soon.
Perfect.
I've met these great people, and they're huge Joe fans, and I love just bringing it together because
awesome.
this is not about we're experts. This is about we like it. And we're going to talk about it.
I love it.
Yeah. So do all that. Oh, and if you're so inclined, if you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you're hearing this, go to the main page and give me a review.
It's that easy.
It's that easy. Go on iTunes because reviews help build the show. The more reviews a show gets, iTunes gets noticed of it, and they tend to promote it a little more, and so we can grow the show. Show's been growing though every month.
It sounds great, and it takes a little more than 2 to 5 minutes.
Feel free to let the review be terrible. Be like, this guy's the worst. He gets everything wrong.
Just as long as
it's a review.
any publicity is good publicity.
Well, I'm really excited, Spencer Miller, my good friend.
Yeah,
let's get this going, and we're gonna watch G.I. Joe: The Invaders.
I love this type of animation.
I think it's so gorgeous. It looks so rich and so awesome. In my opinion, we've talked about this before on the show. I think it's just better than a lot of the animation that we had in the 90s.
Of course.
And some of the stuff you came up on because like this was still being hand drawn, first of all. So there's that level of, richness to it. But you also get the design sense. I think, like look at the backgrounds, the fully painted backgrounds,
of course.
Things like that.
Which is very reminiscent of Dragon Ball Z for me, actually, the way.
Really?
The original Dragon Ball, there was no Z at the end. The Z was added.
What did the Z mean when they added it?
So Dragon Ball, we follow Goku as a kid, and we meet his first kind of core group of friends and main characters. Yeah. Dragon Ball Z is where the show kind of matures. He becomes older, and
so Z stands for Zitz.
Z stands for Zangus.
This is written by Denny O'Neil. Denny O'Neil is a massive comic book legend. He's a legend in comic books.
So this is like a big time.
He's a big
script.
Yeah, he's a big time writer.
Joe.
Yeah, Denny's great. He's super talented. He wrote some of the most pivotal, influential comic books in the 70s, both on Green Lantern, Green Arrow, on Batman. He shepherded Batman for probably 20 years between writing it and then also then being the editor of the books. He shepherded Batman from like mid-70s to like mid-90s. So to see Denny O'Neil on this show, it's going to be well.
Camel jockey got a lot in common.
Did you just hear that? He called him a camel jockey.
Yeah.
Now, I don't
Which is not okay to say.
No, it's not okay to say now.
We're not going to call
Pardon me. But I don't think they meant it that way. I think he literally meant a dude who rides a camel.
We're also, this was a very
it was a different time.
You're able to get away with a lot more.
But I couldn't when I saw that when I first watched this, I saw that and I was like, I got to comment on it because it's terrible. But it's a different time.
It's a different time, and you can. But that's part of the beauty of watching a show like this.
And it came from Dusty, who has nothing but respect for the people of the region.
Of course,
he's a desert trooper.
There you go.
And I literally think he meant dude who rides a camel.
I think that's what he meant. I don't think it was derogatory.
So this is important. So we've got the Joes in pursuit of the Crimson Guard.
Which are the Russians?
Yeah, well, no. They're chasing the Crimson Guard, which are Cobra. But now the Oktober Guard just showed up. And as those guys in the Jeep. And as Gung Ho says, they're Ruskies. Ain't nothing worse than a Ruski.
Nothing worse than a Ruski. Oh, wow. Very interesting. So,
Totally.
So this is in Egypt right now?
Somewhere in the Middle East. I don't
Somewhere
think they say exactly where, but we've got Snake Eyes and Dusty. That's Barbecue. That's Gung Ho. That's
Gung Ho.
Duke in the middle. So they run across basically Cobra. They find out that Cobra has a stronghold in the desert.
So just to be clear, G.I. Joe is not one man. It is a group.
It is a
It's
group.
a group of people. I think that might be a big common misconception.
It originally was one man in the 60s when they had the toy in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
And it was one dude named G.I. Joe, and he had buddies, and they all went on adventures.
Is he a G.I.?
I think he was, yeah. Yeah, he was, yeah. G.I. Joe stands for General Issue Joe. It was a term that was it
so
was
it's
a
not
term
like-
from the military,
Okay.
yeah. When they rebooted and made it G.I. Joe versus Cobra,
Yeah.
they just made it instead of one dude, they made it a whole team. But then years later, they introduced a guy named Joe Colton, and they said he was the original inspiration. Basically,
Sure.
he was the 12-inch doll, but they made a regular 3 3/4 of him. So it is a dude, but it's
wow.
not a dude. So here we go.
So we've got aliens.
We got
in-
aliens just showing up.
So Joe, this is really interesting for me because what my mind first went to when I thought about G.I. Joe was more of a dry kind of military, basic, more classic kind of cartoon.
Yeah. Ooh, look
but this looks like some high tech, old school kind of cool sci-fi stuff that
Yeah.
I had no idea that was involved.
Would you say that guy looks? What does he look like? Kind of a frog? Not a frog face.
This guy right here, the blue
Yeah,
guy.
the alien.
You know, he kind of actually. Not to bring up Dragon Ball Z too much, he's kind of got a Frieza thing going on.
Okay.
He's an alien with kind of a
yeah,
purple
you're right.
head.
You're totally right. I
Sure.
know who that. Angels showed me that guy.
Yeah.
So this alien literally comes out
Of nowhere.
Of nowhere. They kidnap the Crimson Twins and they fly off.
I wouldn't care to be one of those twins.
No, he's from Boston.
That was
Hey,
pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, see,
I'm a U.S. federal marshal.
Federal Marshal.
And what are we going back with?
Gung Ho. He's from Louisiana, the Bayou. He's fantastic.
Love the mustache.
And check this out.
Oh, they all have mustaches.
This is the Oktober Guard. That dude.
It reminds me of Anakin. You are a slave,
Hey,
Anakin.
hey, Watto.
What the?
Okay, so Gung Ho, and that guy's name is Sergeant Horror Show.
Horror show. Okay.
Gung Ho and Horror Show are not going to get along.
So in the GI Joe universe, are laser weapons standard issue?
Yeah.
Standard
They all
issue.
use lasers. They refer to them as lasers.
Lasers.
Yeah. But then it's strange. Occasionally they'll also refer to them as bullets. Here's a neat thing, actually, about this episode. They show Duke's wearing his helmet. The toy came with the helmet, but they
The green helmet
rarely
right there?
yeah, the green helmet on him. They rarely show the helmet on the cartoon, so it's a good different alternative look for Duke.
Of course, yeah.
So Colonel Breckoff and Duke agree to work together to figure out what these aliens are all about. Gung Ho, Horror Show, they're going to fight. We also have the introduction of Diana, like Diana, but Daina.
Sure.
Stormovic is one of the Crimson Guardsmen, and also a guy named Wong. So I'm assuming they pulled from communist China for Wong.
Oh wow. Yeah, perfect.
I'm assuming, but he's great, and he shows up later in this. He wears a cowboy hat and speaks all in cowboyisms.
Perfect.
It's
So we've got a
pretty
wide
entertaining.
variety of
It's pretty
accents.
entertaining. Yeah. So we just got a little montage that those alien spaceships are traveling all over the country, disrupting oil pipelines.
Oh, so there might be some, conspiracy going on.
Oh, there's something's going on.
Something's going on.
And what's happening is it's causing. Wait, here we go.
Get the idea, Colonel Sharp.
On orders from the president, you're to drop everything else and find these flying saucers.
Colonel.
Basically, if they don't find these saucers, the U.S. is going to go to war with Russia, and that's one of the biggest, straight up geopolitical commentaries the show's
Sure.
ever made. Usually, it's because they fight Cobra. Almost every episode, it's them versus Cobra. Occasionally, they'll throw a random Games Master in or something. But this is really America versus Russia, which was not done a lot on the show. with aliens.
Of course, with maybe a bit of a deterrent.
A bit of a deterrent.
To lighten the mood. Because I'm from what I'm getting from you, G.I. Joe did have something to say politically. There was something.
Yes and no. I mean, I think it had a lot more to say social than it did political.
Okay.
Socially,
Fair.
and the socially being treat people right, accept others, and be proud Americans, but also help all others around the world.
I like
the
it.
comic got a little more political, where they would be fighting, like tin pot dictators in small countries. Like there were a lot more bad guys in the comics that the show never did anything like. So real quick, the Joes are on a sweet submarine that Cutter piloted, and they just shot them out like cannon. Like circus cannons.
That was pretty impressive.
It was really impressive, and they parachuted into the Oktober Guard's secret base.
I wonder how the second half of them, at the back of the cannon.
Yeah.
If there's any kind of tech behind that, but
I think
maybe I'm looking into it a little bit
it's
too.
It's literally there's a platform at the base
and
of those things, and when the explosion goes off, it literally just pushes them up like. You could break a hip.
Because people actually
People do that. Yeah.
Get launched out of cannons.
Throws them. It's crazy. So the Joes are now under gunpoint by the Oktober Guard, and we're going into commercial with high tension. Today's Filecard Feature is on the Cobra Reptile Trainer, codenamed Croc Master. A casual visitor to Cobra Island might find his access to certain areas blocked by maze-like systems of shallow canals. These interconnecting waterways are abundantly stocked with ravenously hungry, man-eating crocodiles, which have been deliberately bred and conditioned to be hostile, psychotic, and fast. The man responsible for these repugnant reptiles is Croc Master, a former alligator wrestler and burglar alarm salesman who founded the Guard Gators Incorporated in an effort to commercialize the use of alligators for home security. Croc Master spends his leisure hours dozing in a tub of tepid bathwater with only his nose breaking the surface. He dreams strange green dreams while grinding his teeth and clenching his powerful jaws. He has a hunger that never leaves him. Croc Master is just on the verge of dumb, but I think he holds it together because he comes with a freaking crocodile, which is frightening. His costume is part crocodile skin, like a green crocodile leotard. It's actually very similar to Scarlet's outfit, but with crocodiles. He wears a full face mask, kind of like Bane with a respirator over it. He also carries a whip, which, combined with the mask that he wears, sports a little bit of an S&M look. He does have a cool Cobra insignia on it and a crocodile eyeball logo look on his belt, which is pretty cool. Definitely on the fringe, though. I'm not going to say he's awesome because he's weird, but he's definitely on the fringe. I do think that you keep going further with this and you end up with Raptor, which we all know is no good for anyone. So, Croc Master, Cobra Reptile Trainer, file name unknown. Here's a question, though. He's a former alligator wrestler and burglar alarm salesman who founded Guard Gators Incorporated. If you know that about him, wouldn't it be very, very, very easy to find out his file name? That seems odd to me. Croc Master, I think we need to send you back to the drawing board. However, file name unknown, we salute you.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
What's sweet about this is that they made the teams kind of equal. Like the Joes, obviously the Joes have a lot more people than the Oktober Guard, but they chose just to make the strike teams the same, so it's a little more even.
Understandable, and I like that. It leaves I think the viewer to be a little bit more on the edge of their seat, not always knowing that the good guy's gonna come out on top.
Mm-hmm. So check this out.
Punches
Gung Ho
him out.
just picked a fight with that's Snake Eyes kicks Diana, gets her in a kung fu hold. She's
looking a little bit like Pink Santa.
She does look like she called him Amerikansky Devil, which is pretty great.
Amerikansky Devil.
Yeah. So Duke pulls a gun on Colonel Breckoff, and they call a fight. They call an end to the fight.
This looks like a classic situation of you're not in charge anymore. Not anymore. You're not.
Well, this is great. Like they're there for peace. So they showed him we can get the upper hand on you.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're here.
Maybe an even more scary, intimidating kind of
Oh yeah.
way to
that's,
do it than
like I just showed you I can whip your butt, but here I'm gonna let you keep your guns because I can take it from you at any time.
Very Bruce Lee.
Very Bruce Lee. So now they're gonna team up and they're gonna break off into pairs to kind of try to chase this thing. So Gung Ho and Gung Ho and Horror Show are gonna team up with Duke.
So is it rare for us to have these two groups teaming up together with each other?
Oh, totally. Well, this is their first appearance. So that's Wong. Wong and Snake Eyes are going to be buddies.
He looks Mexican to me, actually, at first.
Does he?
The way they drew
I think he's supposed to be like Asian. Chinese.
He's
But
Wong.
but there's a portion, the lower. I'm so dumb.
Yeah.
I'm so dumb about geography.
Sure.
Like the lower, what is that? The lower southeastern corner of Russia. Like, I mean, it butts up. I know it butts up against Asia. So there may be, like, he may be from that part of Russia.
Sure.
But yeah, his name's Wong. So I'm assuming he's Chinese.
Yeah.
But you know, Snake Eyes is mute. You know this? Snake Eyes the ninja? The guy with the face mask?
What about him?
He's mute. He doesn't speak.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No.
he's
That's pretty cool.
One, he's the best. But he doesn't, right, the guy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't speak at all. So they partner him in this episode with Wong, who's super talkative and funny. And so it's great comic.
Now, I have to ask you right here, is the milk carton in the shot a bit of a clue?
Yes, it is. Very much.
That's the first thing I noticed. I'm big into sci-fi. I love Star Wars, but I've never seen aliens drink cow milk.
You've seen aliens drink blue milk, though.
I have seen aliens. Is Luke an alien?
Well, they're all aliens.
Are they? I guess they technically are aliens.
They're all from another planet.
Well,
so we know Luke. So Luke was born. Luke is part Nabooian. And I guess you could say we don't know exactly where Anakin's mom came from, but since Anakin grew up and was born on Tatooine, Luke is Tatooinian. So Luke's Tatooinian and Nabooian. They're aliens.
That is aliens.
Yeah. Snake Eyes and Wong are in the G.I. Joe hang gliders, which was a cool toy. They actually made these. They were like this big.
Awesome.
Like for real.
Nice.
And they really hung glide. You could put a figure in it.
Oh, that's right. The G.I. Joes were about a bit bigger than normal action figures.
No. The G.I. Joe figures were 3 3/4.
Oh, okay.
But the glider they made one that would be big enough to actually, like if they made a glider that
it wouldn't work.
would be that big, it wouldn't pick up any wind. But they made them that were like, I don't know, what is this? Like
it was
2.5 feet wide. Yeah, and you could like glide it in your backyard.
So are the G.I. Joes at the expense of the U.S. government, though? Is that maybe why they have...
Totally are. Yeah, in this iteration, absolutely. In the movies, the live-action movies, it's, again, more global.
Sure.
But yeah, they're a total Black Ops squad that gets paid by like line items on budgetary measures that have nothing to do with the military. They're total Black Ops.
So the U.S.'s interest in oil is most definitely...
No, they're here to stop Cobra. They're here to fight terrorism. They're not here. They don't like take over.
Oil lines.
Yeah, they don't take over anything. I will say this: this might be the best animated Snake Eyes we've ever had yet. Because Snake Eyes' costume is difficult to animate because he technically wears black. His figure is black.
Okay.
They can't draw that, so he like kind of looks a little purple gray.
I think the purple looks cool though.
Yeah, but he's also got the sweet buckles, right? So half the time of the show when they animate him, the buckles they go missing half the time, or the detail's not drawn in. He really looks good on this. This might be the best depiction of Snake Eyes in any of these. They do get Wong and Snake Eyes do get captured by the Crimson Twins, and the Crimson
in an alien spaceship.
Well, right, the Crimson Twins are bringing them back on the alien spaceship, which is weird, right?
Very weird. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So does that mean Cobra's in league with the aliens?
Are they aliens at all?
I don't know. You're gonna have to wait. And see.
I don't know.
First of all, you've got a great eye for this, Spencer. First
I
of all,
appreciate
you
that.
noticed the milk, and now right away
did.
you're calling out, "Are they really aliens?"
I'll be honest with you. I thought that from the very beginning.
Well, our guys are kidnapped, and the aliens fly off with them.
Cobra got the right materials. Cobra got the perfect home. Cobra Terradrome. Cobra Terradrome. Cobra's got a threat more evil than G.I. Joe has ever known. Cobra Terradrome.
Thanks for my data.
We're ready for the Joe. Launch the fireback. G.I. Joe. Won't know what hit them. G.I. Joe. American hero. Will the Cobra Terradrome be the beginning of the end for G.I. Joe? Find out in Marvel Comics.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
So the UFO has kidnapped Snake Eyes and Wong, and they're flying away.
Totally interesting. It's weird how the UFO's flying as well. Flying a bit like a
Oh
my
look at
God!
that.
Lereveal.
It looks out.
It's
Turns out it's the Arab guy.
Oh,
no,
my God.
It's actually Zartan.
Zartan, give me the background.
He is the Cobra Master of Disguise.
Oh my gosh.
Master of Disguise from Cobra. So he's always G.I. Joe. They're always pulling masks off. It's like Mission Impossible.
That's
they're always
amazing.
pulling fake faces.
They're like
off.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Little Scooby-Doo
exactly.
action.
But what we just saw is he pulled 2 faces off.
2 faces.
He went from the alien to
I
the,
was
to
satisfied.
The Arab to Zartan.
I was satisfied with the Arab because that definitely made sense. But this is just why even go? So he's using the Arabs as a scapegoat in case he gets caught by someone unimportant.
You're totally right there. But then why reveal himself?
It doesn't make sense.
And why wear both masks underneath the alien mask? Or I guess you're wearing one. I guess so. That's his real face. So I guess he's wearing one mask beneath the alien mask.
Of course.
Why do this?
I mean, we joke about this. Obviously, it's for the fun of it. There's no logical way to look at it.
I feel like Zartan's like, I'm gonna do, like, when he's in the makeup chair and he's getting ready for this mission. He's like, check out. I'm gonna blow their minds. I'm gonna put a mask beneath the mask, and they're gonna be like, Zartan, you can't do that.
That's a little bit of a sociopath.
Yeah. I think it's a show
tendency.
Off. A bit of a show off. He's like, look how good of a master of disguise I am. But then he ruins it. I wish they would have kept it as the Arab dude. And then at a certain point, then like Snake Eyes rips his face off. And you're like, no, you're really Zartan.
That is pretty hilarious.
So what Cobra Commander's doing now is he's giving exposition that this whole plan is...
That's Cobra Commander? Sorry.
That's Cobra Commander,
the guy in the
silver
screen?
Yeah, and the silver face.
Doesn't show his face.
They're going to take over both the White House and the Kremlin because they've got both sides on such edge. They're they're playing them against each other.
Yes.
That their defenses are going to be weakened in those places.
Yes.
Okay, Zartan's about to shoot Snake Eyes in the head.
Snake Eyes almost could look like a villain.
In
the way that he's
very
designed.
Much so. Yeah. Oh no, he's supposed to. Yeah, he's supposed to be like.
Maybe that's what's so cool.
You see
about
the Man
him.
in Black, and you're like, well, he can't be a good guy. And then it turns out he's like the best guy. He's like the most loyal. Everything. He's amazing. This is neat. They in the animation, he carries grenades on his
I see
chest.
those.
Yeah, but they took him off once he got captured. They were
Oh.
on earlier, and now they're
That's
gone.
good attention to
Right.
detail.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Really cool. So they managed to get word out to Gung Ho and Duke and Horror Show that it's a fakearoo, as Gung Ho likes to say. Oh, and look at that!
He gave him the
Gave him the okay because Snake Eyes doesn't talk. Yeah,
that's pretty hilarious. I'm getting a feeling maybe this is not right. Is there an actual influence of extraterrestrials in G.I. Joe though?
Well, so funny you say that. They do exist in the same universe as the Transformers, and the Transformers are extraterrestrials.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they do because the in continuity actual evidence is Cobra Commander shows up on an older episode of Transformers as an old man, but it's Cobra Commander.
Interesting.
I've also in one of my early episodes I noticed Cobra was building a device, the matter transmuter, which involved teleportation, and one of the resources they used absolutely could have been Cybertronian because there was some connection. Yeah, there were some connections to it. So I posit that they actually found a piece of Transformers technology to help develop everything that they're building. So
while we're on topic, what other universes are grouped into the same?
Gem's a part of this universe. There was some crossover. Well, it's all by the same production company, but there was some one of the Joe characters crossed over on Gem. Oh, Hector Ramirez, that's who it was.
What's Hector from?
Hector Ramirez is a Geraldo Rivero lookalike.
Okay.
Yeah. So real quick, we're getting some cool, fun action scenes here. It's like Assault on Olympus Has Fallen. It's like the movie Olympus Has Fallen.
They're in the White House, right?
Yeah. There's an assault on the White House and an assault at the Kremlin. Gung Ho falls, and Horror Show saves Gung Ho's bacon, and so they become friends. They bond over this because you got to be a friend, right?
Exactly. Of course.
Gem is shared universe. Transformers is a part of this universe as well, and I think the Inhumanoids is also part of the universe.
Inhumanoids. I've never heard of Gem or Inhumanoids.
You ever heard of Gem the
I
singer?
haven't.
There was a really
Gem.
terrible movie last year that had nothing
does
to
sound
do with
familiar.
Yeah. In the comic books recently, they just merged G.I. Joe, Transformers, ROM, Mask.
In recent
very recently. IDW, they did a joined Hasbro universe, but that's really very new.
Which is canon.
Yeah,
With
canon for the
movies
comics.
and-
yeah,
okay, for
yeah.
comics.
But as far as the cartoon goes, it was G.I. Joe, and then Gem turned out to be crossover. Transformers. Oh, Diana. Dusty's making the moves. Last
He is
time we saw
making some
Dusty,
moves
by
right
the way,
now.
he was also making... Dusty's a Lothario. He was also making moves on someone, too.
You can't blame him with that
No.
much testosterone.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's almost impossible
Yeah.
to not be attracted to that pink
Totally.
Santa.
So
They're dogfighting.
the two UFOs are dogfighting with each other over the Capitol, and they end up in the Potomac, I'm assuming.
Are they UFOs at this point? Aren't
They're not unidentified anymore.
They're not unidentified.
Yeah, but it was 'cause
they're
Snake-
Russians.
Yeah, because Snake Eyes took control of the
Snake
UFO.
Eyes get wise to Cobra Ski.
And here we go. Look at what Snake Eyes.
Broadcasting from the moon.
Still, we have the milk again.
It's exactly what you called earlier. That's how Snake Eyes knew
oh, interesting.
that it was no good.
That's so much. That's
Son of a
amazing.
gun.
That
A milk carton and a human hand.
See,
And
the
a
human hand
human
part,
hand.
though, I don't. They didn't animate the human hand.
no, didn't
so
see a human
that
hand.
got lost in the animation, but definitely the milk carton. But then that tells me, though, Snake Eyes would have seen that in the video. So why didn't he tell anyone? Hey, look, guys, there's a milk carton in the video.
I don't know.
The explanation
I
kind of
don't
doesn't
know.
hold up, but I will say this: Denny O'Neil. This is an awesome show. Like this is a great
I
fun
love it.
episode. The introduction to the October Guard. They show up in a couple more episodes before the run's out. I think they're in like 3 total episodes.
Sure.
And then later on, in later iterations of the cartoon, a couple Russians actually join the team. I think a guy called Big Bear actually joins the Joes. They show up in the Atlantis Factor
Nice.
video game from the NES, the original NES.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So getting back there.
So Gung Ho and Horror Show, they make friends. That's so great.
I loved it.
Spence,
amazing.
That's it. G.I. Joe.
It was
baby.
so much
what
fun.
do you think?
It was amazing. I really liked it. I love the animation. I love the music. I love the voice acting. I thought it was a really solid show. It's reminded me of like kind of a Scooby-Doo animation, almost kind of like a mystery kind of thing going on. At least for this episode, I'm
Yeah.
a novice.
Well, yeah. I mean, it being a mystery of like introducing space aliens. They don't. There's been a few episodes where they do introduce actual like mystical things, and I always hate those because it's
Really?
because it's G.I.
Interesting.
Joe. G.I. Joe's supposed to be a little more grounded.
Sure.
So in this episode, it starts out and it's like, oh, I'm gonna hate this because it's got aliens and monsters,
Okay.
but it's not.
It's not like
And
that.
so it avoids that entirely. Yeah, G.I. Joe's best when it's really grounded. Like it's really like, okay, we're soldiers fighting.
I understand that.
There was one where they flew into space with an Egyptian god, and it was not ironically like they were in space with an Egyptian god.
That's
and I'm just
amazing.
like, I'm done. I can't do that one. But
know-
this is great. And the Invaders is so good.
That's interesting to me though, because I would argue that Star Wars is maybe set apart from the rest of sci-fi because it has that
Well,
mystical
I
aspect
don't think
to
Star
it.
Wars is sci-fi.
Interesting.
I think Star Wars is
Interesting.
is more fantasy.
Yeah.
And an adventure.
Well said.
Yeah, because of the Force. Exactly because of the Force. It's just, and it's obviously it's a Western and all
It
that.
is a
I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
of
those
course.
genres, but I've never, even when I was just growing up, I was always like, the sci-fi is like 2001 and Dune, you know, but like,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Which
but
is a movie I've seen.
and Star Trek sci-fi.
Not a big Star Trek fan.
I like Star Trek. But Star Wars,
Fantasy.
fantasy adventure.
Used future is what I've heard George Lucas describe
Oh
it
yeah,
as.
totally. Yeah, used future that takes place a long time ago.
Yeah. Of
Are you
course.
excited about the new movie, Episode 8?
I'm super excited. You recently shared with me. I saw later on a Reddit and internet, but we got some. I don't know if we want to say any spoilers.
it's out there. It's been out
It's
there.
out there.
They announced the very first line of dialogue because people have seen bits of the movie. First line of dialogue from the new episode is,
Who are you?
and it's Luke asking Rey who she is.
Luke asking Rey.
which is great.
Casting a shadow on a lot lot of our predictions.
A lot of our theories.
A lot of our theories.
But I think our main theory stands up. He just may not know that that's who she is. I'll throw this out there. This is not a spoiler,
Yes.
speculation. I think we both think that she's a Kenobi.
I would go
Isn't that-
forward
have we
and
talked
say
about
I
that?
know she's a Kenobi.
How do you know?
Cool. So I buy Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon cards for my personal collections. I play the game, but the owner of the store that I go to claims to have a buddy from Bad Robot. Now I personally do not know this person. I do know that Bad Robot exists. I do know I do know this.
Bad Robot
That's-
is a thing.
That's the extent of my credibility right now. But it does make sense between foreshadowing. If you look at the timeline, that that Rey would be Obi-Wan Kenobi's granddaughter.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense because they keep circling around Ewan McGregor doing a solo movie, but they won't commit to it, and they won't say what the
Exactly.
next solo movie is going to be after the Han Solo movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. Which, I mean, it's Disney. Like, Marvel tells you 6 years ahead of time. And yet Star Wars, you telling me they don't know what the next solo movie will be after the Han Solo thing? Of course they do.
Yeah.
And it's because it's Kenobi. And they don't want to say it because they don't want to say it till this movie gets released or is super close to being released, because that will give... As soon as they say we're doing a solo Kenobi movie, everyone will be like, oh, yeah, because you're going to tell about some adventure that Ewan McGregor has.
Yeah.
Once he watches over Luke, he spends 20 years as a hermit. Well, he's going to meet a lady. They're going to fall in love. They're going to have a kid, and then that kid's going to have a kid named Jin. Not Jin. Named Rey.
Named Rey. And to confirm, Obi-Wan did have love interest in the animated series Clone Wars.
Oh, right. Yeah, he did.
Disney.
And Clone Wars is canon.
It is canon.
Still, yeah, totally. Well, Spencer Miller, this has been a delight.
It's been awesome. I really had a good time.
Yeah,
I'd
me
love
too,
to
man.
do this more.
Okay.
I
We'll get you back on. Before
Perfect.
I figure the show's this iteration of the show is going to go to like October-ish.
Cool.
So I'll make time to get you on again.
Perfect. And who knows? There might be a Star Wars podcast.
You never know.
There could be or maybe a YouTube channel. Maybe that'd be easier.
Maybe
we do something. I'm liking the chemistry.
Awesome.
Of,
Well, make
Star
sure you guys are out there. If you like Spencer, tell him you like him.
Thank you so much.
On Instagram at Spensington. Remember, there's an extra E in the middle.
Spensington, yes.
The useless E.
It's
and find
useless.
me at Joe and Joe Pod on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. joeandjoepod@gmail.com. And remember, now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.